You are the only animal on earth that cries. Not your dog, not elephants, not a single other creature that has ever lived. Only you. And no one can fully explain why. Crying feels like weakness. It isn't. It might be the strangest, most powerful thing your body has ever learned to do. Think about how strange that actually is. Life has existed on this planet for billions of years. Billions. In that time, evolution built wings, venom, eyes that see in the dark, and brains that can do calculus. It built creatures that glow, creatures that regrow lost limbs, creatures that survive in boiling water and solid ice. And in all of that time, across all of those millions of species, the act of leaking salt water from your eyes because you feel something happened exactly once in us. So tonight, we're going to answer a question that sounds simple and isn't. Why do humans cry? Not why your eyes water. Why you weep. Let's start by being precise, because this is where most people get it wrong. Your eyes make 3 completely different kinds of tears, and only one of them is the mystery. The first kind is always there. A thin film of moisture coating your eyes right now, keeping them from drying out. Scientists call these basal tears. Every animal with eyes has some version of them. Nothing strange here. The second kind shows up when something attacks your eye. Chop an onion, and the fumes trigger them. Get dust or smoke or a stray eyelash in there, and your eye floods to wash the threat away. These are reflex tears. A crocodile makes them. A dog makes them. Your eyes make them. They are pure plumbing, a cleaning system, nothing more. And then there's the third kind, the kind that has no physical cause at all, no onion, no dust, no injury, just a feeling, grief or joy or love so overwhelming that your body has to do something with it. These are called emotional tears or psychic tears, and as far as we can tell, they belong to one species on the entire planet. This is the part people refuse to believe. Surely animals cry, you're thinking. I've seen my dog look heartbroken. I've heard that elephants mourn their dead. And you're not wrong about the feeling. Elephants really do seem to grieve. They return to the bones of their dead and touch them gently with their trunks. Apes mourn. Some animals clearly suffer loss in ways that look painfully familiar, but grieving and weeping are not the same thing. An elephant can stand over its dead and feel something we can barely imagine, and not a single tear of emotion will fall. The crying you think you see in animals is almost always reflex tears, or simply wet eyes, or our own desperate need to see ourselves reflected back in them. When researchers look closely, the emotional tear, the one triggered by feeling alone, keeps coming up empty everywhere except in humans. Even the phrase crocodile tears comes from this confusion. The old story claimed crocodiles wept while devouring their prey, faking sorrow. Crocodiles do produce tears to lubricate their eyes, especially out of water, but there is no sadness behind them. There never was. The myth survives because the idea of a weeping animal is so powerful that humans simply invented one. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. From an evolutionary standpoint, emotional crying makes no sense. Think about what a tear actually does to you in a dangerous moment. It blurs your vision. It signals, loudly and visibly, that you are overwhelmed. For an animal trying to survive in a world full of predators and rivals, advertising, "I am weak right now and I can barely see," is close to the worst possible idea. Evolution should have deleted this. Crying should have gotten our ancestors killed. And yet, it didn't just survive. It became universal. Every healthy human in every culture on every continent cries. It's there from the very beginning. Though not exactly the way you'd assume. A newborn screams from its first moment of life, but for the first few weeks, no tears come. The crying is there before the tears are. And then, somewhere around the first month, the tears arrive, and they never fully leave. People who have grown up completely isolated from other cultures still weep. Whatever this is, evolution didn't tolerate it by accident. It kept it on purpose. The question is why? The leading answer flips the whole thing on its head. What looks like a weakness may have been the entire point. A Dutch psychologist named Ad Vingerhoets has spent much of his career studying exactly this. He literally wrote a book called Why Only Humans Weep. And one of the most compelling ideas to come out of this work is that tears are a signal, specifically an honest one. In the animal world, most signals can be faked. A creature can puff itself up to look bigger, bare its teeth, run a bluff. But a tear is very hard to fake on command. It tends to come only when the emotion behind it is real. So a visible tear became something rare and valuable, a signal of genuine vulnerability that's difficult to counterfeit. It says without a single word, I am not a threat to you. I need you. And crucially, it says it to the people close enough to see your face, your family, your group, the handful of people whose help you actually need. An evolutionary biologist named Orrin Hassan pushed this idea further. He argued that by blurring your own vision, tears lower your defenses on purpose. They're a way of saying, I trust you enough to be helpless right in front of you. Between enemies, that's suicide. But between allies, it's something else entirely. It's the foundation of a bond. And think about who the very first crier in your life actually was. A baby. The most helpless creature on the planet, unable to walk, unable to speak, unable to do anything except produce a signal so impossible to ignore that it reaches across a room and physically pulls an adult toward it. A crying infant is using the oldest version of this tool there is, turning pure helplessness into the one thing powerful enough to guarantee it gets cared for. But signaling only works if it actually changes the behavior of the people watching. So does it? This is where the research gets almost eerie. In 2011, scientists at the Weizmann Institute in Israel ran an experiment on what emotional tears actually do to the people around them. They collected real emotional tears, then had men sniff them without telling them what they were smelling. The tears were completely odorless. The men couldn't consciously detect anything at all. But something had changed anyway. Sniffing those tears measurably lowered the men's testosterone and reduced their physical arousal. The tears were carrying a chemical message, a signal traveling silently out of one person's body and into another's, quietly turning down aggression. We are not just seen when we cry. On some level, we can't even detect. We are felt. Other research points the same way. When people are shown two versions of the same crying face, one with the tears left in, one with the tears carefully erased, something shifts. The face with the tears reads instantly as sad and as someone who needs help. The same face with the tears removed suddenly looks less sad and much harder to read. The tear isn't just a side effect of the emotion. It's part of how the emotion gets communicated. A tear takes something locked inside one human skull and makes it visible, contagious, shared. And tears may not only change the people watching, they may change you. In the 1980s, a biochemist named William Frey did something nobody had quite done before. He compared the chemical makeup of reflex tears, the onion kind, with emotional tears, and he reported that they were not identical. Emotional tears appeared to carry higher concentrations of certain proteins and stress-related chemicals, including hormones the body floods itself with under pressure. That led to a tempting idea. Maybe crying is partly a release valve. Maybe when you weep, you are literally flushing some of the chemistry of stress out of your body. It's worth being honest here, because this part is still debated. Scientists argue about how much of crying's calming effect comes from chemistry, and how much comes from the comfort and care that crying tends to summon from the people around you. But almost everyone who studies it agrees on the one thing people consistently report. After a real cry, the deep kind, the kind that empties you out, most people feel lighter, steadier, like a pressure was finally let out. Now, take all of these pieces and step back into the world our ancestors actually lived in. Picture a small band of early humans, a few dozen people, trying to survive a world that wanted them dead. They had no claws, no fangs, no speed. The one thing they had, the only thing that let a soft, slow primate conquer the entire planet, was each other. Their survival ran completely on connection, on who would share food with you when your hunt failed, on who would protect your child while you slept, on who would sit with you when you were broken and stay. Now imagine a member of that group in pain, wounded, grieving a death, terrified in the dark. And imagine their body had a way to make that pain visible, a silent signal that reached straight past language and pulled the others toward them. A signal that said, "Help me, comfort me, I am one of you," in a form almost impossible to fake. That signal would have done something extraordinary. It would have bound people together at exactly the moments that mattered most. The crying child who gets picked up instead of left behind, the grieving parent who gets held, the frightened friend who gets reassured instead of abandoned. Tears may have been one of the quiet, invisible threads that turned a fragile group of primates into something that could survive almost anything. A family that could feel each other's pain and refuse to let each other face it alone. That's the strange beauty hiding inside something we treat as embarrassing. Crying may not be a glitch in human strength. It may be one of the deepest sources of it, which makes the way we talk about it almost completely backwards. We tell children to stop crying. We apologize the second our eyes start to fill. We hide in bathrooms and parked cars so that nobody sees us break. We have taken one of the oldest, most powerful bonding signals our species ever evolved and somehow turned it into something to be ashamed of. But your body never got that message. When the pain rises and your vision blurs and that first warm tear finally breaks loose, you are not malfunctioning. You are doing something almost nothing else in the history of life has ever been able to do. You are taking a feeling, invisible, trapped, wordless, and turning it into a signal that another human being can see and feel and answer. There are millions of species on this planet. Creatures that fly, that glow, that live for centuries, that survive things which would kill us in seconds, and not one of them, not the elephant standing over its dead, not the ape grieving its lost child, not even the dog that loves you more than it loves itself, can do the small, strange thing that you can do. You can weep because you feel. So the next time it happens, the next time something overwhelms you and your eyes fill, and you feel that flush of embarrassment rising right alongside the tears, try to remember what you are actually holding. Not a weakness, not a failure, a signal older than language written into your body across hundreds of thousands of years by humans surviving the only way they ever could, together. Every tear you have ever cried is proof of that inheritance. The animals can't. You can. And now you know why.